Hello, everyone, and welcome to Modernize or Become Extinct. This is Jim McKeith, and joining me is Nick Hodges.
Hello, everybody.
So the theme of today is to talk with you about how important it is to modernize your app so that you can remain relevant and you can stay in front of the game, as it were. So the agendas, we're going to talk about where we came from, kind of the legacy that we share as software developers that have been around for a while, and then talk about some of the technologies of today and tomorrow, what they are, why they're relevant, why they're important, and then how you can adapt and adopt these technologies to remain relevant. And then we'll share with you some resources in moving forward. So I'm going to let Nick introduce himself really quick. You probably already know who he is, but
Hey, that's me. I'm the Director of Product Management at Embarcadero, and I'm a longtime community member, as hopefully you know. I don't know, maybe you don't know me. I've written 2 books on Delphi, a bunch of blog posts. I frequently speak at conferences and whatnot, and you can read my blog there and send me an email if you want to.
Yes, I highly recommend Nick's books. Check those out if you're not familiar with them. Nick's a great guy. I feel like I've known you since the beginning of the Delphi community almost.
You pretty much have, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
So,
what about you, Jim?
My name is Jim McKeith. I am the lead worldwide developer evangelist for Embarcadero. I'm also the host of the podcast at Delphi.org, longtime developer, trainer, speaker, and author as well. I don't have as many full books as Nick does, but I have contributed to a few books that are out there published on software development topics. My claim to fame, though, is I invented and patented Swipe to Unlock back in 2000. So if you look up those patent numbers,
and you got millions for it, right?
That's right. I retired to a small island, and
Swipe to unlock.
Swipe to unlock. Yes, drawing a geometric shape to authenticate yourself to a computer system, and turns out a line is a geometric shape. Anyway,
there you go.
So
good for you. That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I get to put that on my slides. That's really the benefit of that.
That's the best part of it, right?
That is. Joining us in a little bit is Malcolm Groves. He was here for the whole webinar, but because of a recording issue, actually lost part of the recording he was on. So that's why it's just Nick and I for now. But Malcolm is the principal at Code Partners. He's a longtime member of the Delphi community, speaker, blogger, trainer, etc. A fun story about Malcolm is the very first BoreCon I attended. He was the first speaker. He did a session on Java for Delphi developers. And I went to that session. It was fantastic. I thought he was great. Never became a Java developer. I tried, but it wasn't for me. And after the session, I was talking to him, and he said, you should come back and present next year. There's got to be something you're an expert on that people would like to hear about. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. So I came back the next year as a speaker at BoreCon, and since then I've been speaking at conferences all around the world. So all thanks to Malcolm. Thank you, Malcolm, for that. I always tell him thank you every chance I get. So our legacy, where we came from, Delphi was introduced in 1995 for 16 bits. Can you believe that, Nick? It's 1995. That was a long time ago.
I was there. I was actually at the launch event on February 14th, 1995 at SD West 95 when Anders Heilsberg introduced Delphi 1.0. I was there. It's pretty exciting.
When Delphi was...
High point in my life.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was not there for that, but I started using Delphi as of Delphi 2, actually. I was a Turbo Pascal developer for years before that, but I missed Delphi 1. But I
think we all agree it's the best Windows development tool. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is it was revolutionary. It was way ahead of the time, and it stayed ahead of its time for quite a while. It continued to just really be the best tool, and it still is today the best tool for Windows development.
Yep, wrapped up the Windows API quite neatly with a VCL. I remember being amazed at things like T-Brush and T-Point and all the different classes that wrapped up everything in the Windows API.
Well, it did a good job in that you could look at documentation on how to do things in Windows, and it would say, oh, you need to get a Windows handle, or you need to get a brush, or whatever, and you're like, oh, and you look at, and in Delphi we have, like you said, the T-Brush, or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, I have this really nice wrapper version of the Windows API that it's so much easier to work with. It's object-oriented, and
Oh yeah, it was great.
type safe and
Those
everything.
were the days.
Yep. So
But they're still the days now.
they are still the days now. But so at the time, Delphi was great, had all this great Windows API wrapper. It had database access baked in it from the ground up, which was huge. Made it so easy to deal with database applications. Really focused on building your fat client server type applications for Windows Desktop, Windows Server.
And it's evolved since then, yeah.
Yes, and so we're going to talk some more about what the evolution of Delphi looks like.
Excellent.
So we're going to talk about technology of today and tomorrow.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah.
Technology of today and tomorrow. Sounds good.
So Windows has come a long ways. Delphi was introduced for Windows 3.1, if you can believe that.
I remember those days, yes.
And then Windows 95 came out shortly after that.
I remember, and Windows 2.0 came out, or Delphi 2.0 came out, and the first thing I did was I allocated an integer the size of all the memory in my machine. Remember, you could only go up to 64K or something with an integer.
Yes.
32-bit went up to 2 trillion or something. I don't remember what the number is. 2 to the 32. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I confess I don't know the number, but it's a big number.
It's a big number. 4 billion. That must be what it is. 4 billion. Okay. I'll look it up later.
But Microsoft's pretty serious about Windows 10, I think. They're not messing around. They're adding all kinds of new stuff to it.
Yeah, so Windows 10 is a pretty big deal. Microsoft says it's the last version of Windows. They're just going to keep releasing updates to Windows 10. So it's going to continue to be Windows 10, kind of like Apple's been doing with Mac OS 10 for a while now. It's been, 10.1,
And
10.2.
we're actually doing that with RAD Studio 10.
Yes, that's true. We are.
10's a good number. 10's a great number.
It is a great number. So Windows 10 was a free update. If you had a previous version of Windows from XP or newer, I think it was, then you got a free upgrade to Windows 10, and that resulted...
Free is good.
Free is good. Resulted in the fastest uptake.
Free is my favorite price.
If there's a price involved, I like free. That's true.
Free's my favorite one. Yeah, it really did update quickly. There's no reason not to be on Windows 10. It's a great operating system.
It is. It combines like the best stuff of Windows 7, which Windows 7 was kind of the last one that had all that really good, strong desktop feel. And then Windows 8, they introduced this more mobile-looking feel. And Windows 10's like, okay, let's get this right. So it took all the good stuff from Windows 7, some of the good stuff from Windows 8, updated it all, put it together nicely in a nice package.
Yes, they did. Built a desktop bridge to allow you to put Windows applications in the store. Universal Windows Platform apps are based in RT, so that's cool.
Yeah.
That was all good stuff.
Yeah, Windows 7 and Windows 8 really started favoring these managed code applications, whereas Windows 10 remakes the native app as a first-class citizen. So as you mentioned, the Windows Store with the desktop bridge enables you to get your apps in the Windows Store. So that's really great, so that you can actually have full native desktop applications distributed through the Windows Store. And just like
what's the only development tool that supports the Windows Store, Jim?
You know what? For native applications, it's Delphi.
That's right.
Delphi and C++ Builder, RAD Studio.
That's right.
And this is something that I think is really huge, is that the Microsoft's tools are all focused around managed code in the Windows Store, like JavaScript. And, JavaScript's nice, but I don't want to build anything that complicated in JavaScript. I learned my lesson a long time ago on that one.
I don't know anybody I shouldn't say I don't know anybody, but I mean, JavaScript is kind of like writing assembler.
Yes.
Does anybody, somebody likes that, but not too many people.
No. So with Delphi and C++ Builder, and actually our next slide here is going to talk about this, we have this fantastic Windows 10 support. We've been right on top of the Windows 10 releases or features, rolling out new features around that with our tools, including desktop bridge support for Windows Store, so you can build a native app, bundle it, and have it ready to deploy through the Windows Store, where you can do enterprise distribution, you can do ad hoc distribution, or you can do distribution to the store where Microsoft will manage the money for you.
Which is really cool.
It is. We have the all the styles, a lot of great new components. Some of the new components we have are really great. And the cool thing actually is our VCL components that have all that new Windows 10 functionality and theming will actually work on earlier versions of Windows.
Yes, you can build an application that'll run and work at like Windows 10, but it'll also have the Windows 10 controls, but it'll run on Windows 7 and 8.
Yes, and although technically we don't officially support Windows XP because Microsoft end-of-lifed it, I know people that are still developing under Windows XP and for Windows XP with Delphi.
Wow, that's kind of scary, but hey, okay.
It is. And actually, I had a slide earlier talked about this, that Windows 10's adoption is higher than actually higher than Windows XP. For the longest time, Windows XP was a big holdout, but Windows 10's actually past XP now.
Cool. Excellent. And we provide all the support you need.
Yes, we do.
Windows 10.
I'll show you a real quick demo here of the Windows 10 support. This is our notifications sample application. And I can go here, project, options. And if I come here to appearance, this is where all our styles are installed. And you'll see I have this nice selection of Windows 10 styles. Actually, let's go ahead and change this to Windows 10 purple, just because that sounds cool. Also over here on the tool palette, we have a new Windows 10 category, which has some great Windows 10 new controls in here. I'm just going to throw this calendar picker down. And let's give it a run. So now we got our nice fancy Windows 10 purple style and this really sleek looking calendar picker. This calendar picker, even though it's designed for Windows 10, still works under other OSs like Windows 8 or Windows 7. And gives you this nice Windows 10 type functionality. And then this does notifications, so I can have it show me a notification there. But you know, that's one thing. Check this out. Over here, under Target Platform, Win32, I can now select Application Store. And when I build this, actually if I come here to Project Deployment, here's the bundle. The app package is going to build for the Windows Store. It includes the artwork that's necessary for it. And if I run it, it's going to say compile, build, link, deploy, signing. And then it's going to give me a message here that, hey, your app X is actually in an Explorer folder. So just jump over here. And here it is right there. There's the app X I just built. And I can double click on it. And it says, hey, do you want to install this? So this app X could be distributed, put up on my website for download. I could upload it to the Windows Store so it can be distributed that way, or I can distribute it through an enterprise application store. And all I do now is click install. It's installed. I can launch it from here. And here it is running just like before. And I can also go into my start menu and go down and find notifications projects. That's the one. This is the desktop version. This is the new AppX version. So see, it's got the nice icon in here that I can resize. All right, just like I would expect to be able to do. And watch this. This is really cool. Uninstall. Yes. And it uninstalled the AppX. That is cool because it's using the sandbox provided by Windows 10. So very cool. Be able to build and deploy your applications through AppXs in the Windows Store. Malcolm's coming on to join us as we start talking about platform mobilization here. One thing is that in order to save time, we cut out on the demos and include a link to where you can go and watch those demos later on. So it becomes more of a conversation at this point.
There we are.
Yeah. And, well, you know, also, not only do we have kids today that are mobile first, but, you know, like the virtual reality, that's a really kind of a mobile-based experience with these phones that go into these headsets. And that's
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
fundamentally changing things. And I'll make a plug. If you go to community.embarcadero.com, one of our MVPs just did a blog post on building a 3D virtual reality Google Cardboard headset app with FireMonkey. So go check that out if you're interested in that.
I love Google Cardboard.
Yes.
I just love the name, Google Cardboard. That's an official thing.
It is an official thing.
Sorry, it's just funny.
Okay, so the device shipments in 2015,
Whoa.
I like this because it shows if you took and combined OS 10 and Windows, it would still be less than the Android device shipments. There's more Apple devices shipped than Windows, and more Android devices shipped than everything else put together.
Boy, if only there was a tool out there that you could use to develop for all those platforms.
I know, wouldn't that be amazing?
Wouldn't that be awesome? Wouldn't you want that?
What's other, Jim?
Symbian.
There's a lot of them. Symbian, of course. It's silly me.
No, it's not Windows. Well, Windows Phone's in there, but the stats I could find on Windows Phone was they're like less than 0.1% as far as shipments out there.
Wow.
Some other might be including Linux or.
Oh, of course, Linux. Yeah. So yes, that's obvious. Sorry, you were very gentle.
Linux and Symbian put together.
That was a very gentle way of pointing out what a stupid statement that was.
It's Linux and Symbian.
That's right.
There we go.
So this is based on visits to websites, based on the client information that the browser reports. So this is what people are actually using to visit different websites. So 40% of people that are out there doing things on the web are using Windows. 34% are Android, but if you combine all the non-Windows ones together, that's 60% non-Windows, and 46% is mobile OS, whereas 45% is desktop OS. So again, mobile is and non-Windows is eclipsing Windows. Windows is still big; it's still the biggest segment on here, but the other segments are encroaching on Windows.
That's an interesting graph.
Like Nick was saying, wouldn't it be great if you could develop an app that hit all of
those operating systems?
They could develop
So
Android, iOS, and OS 10 all at once.
Oh,
I don't know about
only.
It's interesting we have both unknown and other on here.
Never mind.
So it turns out, yes, we can. That's what Delphi and C++ Builder and RAD Studio has been doing since, what was it? I guess XE4. We introduced the mobile solution, FireMonkey Mobile.
3 or 4, something like that. Yeah.
XE5 added Android, and so many people I've talked to, some of our customers, that developed an iOS app with XE4, and then Android came out, and they right-clicked and said, "Add new platform, Android, build," and oh my goodness, look, there is my app running on Android as a native Android app. And maybe they had to change the alignment of a button so that it fit the larger screen or something like that. But 90% of it was already functional and ready to go on Android that quick and that easy.
And just think if there were styles that would let each device look correct and correct for that device. So there's a style that would do that.
And you know, with the platform services we offer, not only do we have styles that make it look right, but for example, the tab control. So according to Google or Android's design spec, if you have a tab control, your tab should be at the top of the screen so that don't conflict with those buttons. Do you have that back and home button down at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
But iOS says you should put those tabs at the bottom of the screen so they're easier to reach from your thumb. So our style system, not only does it look natively and use native controls, but it also knows how to switch the positions of tabs and those behaviors and all that stuff so that it's there. It's what users are expecting to run into on those different platforms.
Yep. I've been saying yep a lot.
Yeah.
But there's so much truth there's just so much truth coming out of your mouth, Jim. I can't hardly help it.
One of the things that I was really excited to see, and this came, I think, in XE7, was app tethering, which goes back to that survey we talked about earlier, right, where we did this survey and people said, yeah, mobile's important, but we still are committed and still need to be on Windows for quite a while. And so app tethering makes it really, really easy to take your existing VCL desktop application and extend it onto a mobile device. So you can send data back and forth. You can send actions back and forth. So your mobile device you can tap a button on the mobile device and it does something on the desktop. You can capture data on the mobile device and it sends it to the desktop in real time. It's really incredibly easy to do and very, very powerful way to extend your existing desktop applications on the mobile devices.
Yeah, and I think this came out at an interesting time. I also can't remember when it was, but it was something like XE7. But because when the mobile stuff first came in XE5 or whenever, I saw a number of people who just thought, okay, well I'll take everything that my VCL desktop application does and I'll try and cram that into a mobile app. And of course that, with hindsight, we can all see that was a bad idea. But at the time, you don't know these things until you try it. And so I gradually saw this realization amongst the customer base that actually, no, I don't want the whole desktop app. I want this slice of functionality. This little vertical piece here would make sense on a mobile app as a companion to the desktop app. It's not replacing it. It's just extending it out onto the mobile. And I think app tethering has a really cool role to play there and actually RAD Server when we get to it as well, but in saying, okay, here's the slice of functionality that I want to enable for mobile, and the rest of it can stay on the desktop because that's where it makes sense.
Well said, yeah.
I was doing a presentation a while back where I had my Google Glass and the drone, the quadcopter, and the brain computer interface, and had this all working together, and they released an update for Google Glass. This is back when they released updates for Google Glass, and it quit make the connection going out from the I can't remember the details, but I was like, oh, I need to figure out a different way to connect this, and I was like, oh, I know, app tethering. And so I dropped a few app tethering components down, and I was at the hotel getting ready to go do my presentation. I dropped the app tethering components down, connected them up, and was able to start sending the data between Google Glass and the desktop application just within a few minutes. And all of a sudden, I had this a really cool demo again. So app tethering, it's a cool idea. It's really easy to do, and it's really, really powerful, and it gives you that ability, like Malcolm said, to take that one slice of functionality that makes sense on mobile and put it on mobile. So we have a demo here. This is a video I did a while ago on our new FireUI preview functionality. This is really cool. Yeah, at the end you can come in. I'll give you the link to this. You can come and play this. But this is showing. You can kind of see this. This is my Windows 10 desktop. This is an Android device. This is a Windows tablet. This is an iOS iPad, and this is a MacBook Pro. And using the new preview functionality, which interestingly is based on app tethering, I can make a change on my design surface here in the IDE, and it will send that change to all these different devices. And so you can actually preview your UI on the actual hardware of your devices in real time. It's really cool technology. So now let's talk about microservices. This is something that people have been talking about for a long time, but really lately has started to make a big impact. Nick, you want to talk about this real quick?
Sure. This microservices is basically a way of sort of one of my favorite words, decoupling your code. You can provide very small, very succinct, very discrete services via REST or any other type of connectivity via HTTP or general TCP/IP sockets, whatever, any number of different ways. It's generally done over HTTP or HTTPS with REST, and they're small individual chunks of functionality that you build and put together to create a single application. Very modular, and it's like Lego blocks, as you can see the graphic there, as you piece together Lego blocks to build anything you want to build. And microservices is very popular these days. It's very easy to build differing front ends for, a web front end, a mobile front end, a Windows front end for these things using microservices. So it's really a cool way of building your application. It's the modern architecture. It's sort of the N-tier, the next evolution of N-tier application development. And if only there was a way in Delphi to build microservices.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
But wait, there is.
Wait, there is. And so this is all, as you made mentioned is REST services is really the protocol, the language that is used behind the scenes for most microservices. It's based on JSON HTTP. It's the successor to SOAP. So if you remember SOAP services, back in what was it, Delphi 6 timeframe?
Wow. 6 or 7, yeah, 6, 5, 6, something like that.
The SOAP services were big. So SOAP was this really complex and exhaustive standard.
Heavy.
It was heavy, exactly. The problem was it wasn't simple and flexible. So REST is the successor. It's very simple, flexible. It's more of a philosophy and less of a standard. If you say standard to most REST developers, they get all upset and they'll tell you it's not a protocol.
It's not
a protocol. It's a philosophy.
It's a way of life.
A way of life. So RAD Server is the perfect backend for Delphi and C++ builder apps. And actually, I would go beyond that. It is such a powerful backend that can be used by anything that's can consume a REST service, which is most tools out there can consume REST services.
What do you think, Mal? You're a RAD Server guy.
Oh, I'm totally on board. God, just tell me when to stop talking. Like Jim just said, if you're a Delphi and CBuilder guy, which I assume the people on this webinar are, I'm not sure why you're here if you're not. Like this just makes total sense. You get to build your back end with the same skills and the same team as building your front end. In many cases, you can take a bunch of the code that you've had in your client server app. We've seen customers do this. We're doing this for some customers at the moment where we take a client server app and start gradually breaking pieces out and pushing them up into RAD Server. So you can do it in a very gradual fashion. It's very familiar to a Delphi developer. And the nice thing is that you almost by default you end up building these different packages and different services. And initially you might choose to deploy them all together in a single RAD server, but you've got the flexibility of when one particular of these services is getting needs to scale up and the others don't, you can pull that one out into its own instance of RAD server, and you're not forced to do all this surgery on your code because it just it's easy to do. And like I think it was Jim, you were just saying then, actually there's a video up on our website where the Foresight guys in Brisbane are talking about how they did this.
Excellent video.
Yeah, and they've, the same guys who've been building their client server app forever built the back end and have also started building the mobile piece. And they brought in a couple of AngularJS developers to build a web front end for it. And these guys didn't know or care that the back end was in Delphi. It was just a REST back end, and so they really quickly built up this web front end for it, and they've rolled it out, and their customers are happy. So it's just I'm seeing more and more interest from people in using this as a vehicle for taking a client-server app and extending it and opening it up. And like the Foresight guys say in that video, they've gone from asking really serious questions about the future of their client-server app and are we on the right platform? Do we have to do a rewrite? To now where they're hiring people, they've got plans going out years for how they can take this Delphi code base even further. So I think it's an awesome story. Like I said, you can hear it. I'm super passionate about this. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think the key thing is that you can take your existing code base and pretty straightforwardly turn it into a REST API.
Yeah. I know it's easy to say that, and you hear vendors say that, and you think, yeah, right, oh, how easy is easy. But honestly, if you guys have got a recent version of Delphi, you've got the developer edition of RAD Server, and there's a bunch of stuff online where you can get the quick introduction. Try it. Once you get over that hump of realizing that distributed development and server-based development is meant to be hard, but once you get past that and you realize actually this is just Delphi, It's fantastic. It just opens things up for you.
Yep. Very good.
Yeah.
Well said.
We've had the ability to build REST servers with DataSnap and other technologies for quite a while, but one of the things RAD Server does is it has that user management and API analytics and access control all baked into it, ready to go.
Correct. Very nice feature.
Yeah, exactly. So you just got to add, hey, what do I want to expose via an API endpoint, and you're done. Everything else is built in and baked up, ready to go. It's so easy and so powerful. It's just a great way. It really brings that Delphi philosophy, that rapid application development philosophy, to in-tier microarchitecture development.
Yep.
Yeah, and just just like when the VCL came along, I was happy for so many reasons. I didn't have to worry about Windows message loops anymore and all this stuff. I didn't have to worry about plumbing. I could just focus on what I was trying to build. This feels the same way. I mean, yeah, you could take a bunch of different technologies. You could take Node, you could take whatever else and build up something like this. But you're building plumbing. I don't want to be a plumber. I'm trying to build a business application here. And so, it just takes all that stuff off the table.
Yeah, just build a class, add attributes, and you've got a REST server.
Oh man, can we just talk about RAD Server for the next hour? That'll be
That's the thing about this webinar, actually. Each individual technology here we could totally talk about for an hour, because it really is, each one of these is so revolutionary and powerful. And actually, I'm going to talk about something that kind of ties in together with some of the stuff we talked about before, like mobile and even Windows development. The same thing with RAD Server is, as Malcolm was saying, you can be, hey, I'm trying to run a business here. I don't want to care about the plumbing. But the cool thing, one of the things I love about Delphi and the rapid application development approach that it provides, is that when you need to get into the plumbing and you're like, oh, I have to change the way this header is returned because the packaging is different, you can do that. You can reach in.
You have total control. That's a good point, Jim.
You have total control, and so you can say, I don't care about the implementation details. I don't care about the plumbing. But when you do, because everybody knows at some point the plumbing comes into the story, you can reach in, and it's so easy to reach in on Windows and grab those Windows messages, grab those APIs. On Android and iOS, same thing. You can reach in and grab those platform APIs, and all that stuff that because you're building a platform-native application, you can do. And on RAD Server, you can reach in and grab those HTTP headers, or grab the raw JSON, or whatever it is you need to do to make it that last little bit of functionality. So many other tools out there I've used, they're like, oh, you just run this wizard and you run it, and you're like, well, yeah, that's great for this, but when I want to do this, like, well, yeah, you can't really do that. It's like, well, that's not any good then, because your application is never exactly what the wizard builds. And so, yeah, the fact that you can get done quickly, but then still reach in and grab all those deep functionality is great.
Yeah, no one cares about the plumbing until you have to care about the plumbing, and then you really need to be able to.
That's always been Delphi's strength, right? Is that it gave you a layer above the plumbing, but gave you access to the plumbing.
Exactly. I love that, Malcolm. No one cares about the plumbing until you need to care about the plumbing.
Yeah, and then you really need to care.
Yeah. And so that's what RAD Server, just like all the other places where we come in, it gives you that ability to not have to worry about the plumbing until you need to worry about the plumbing. So this is a link here. You can watch this later. That's a short introduction to RAD Server made easy. Kind of walks through how it works. Going to explain some stuff we already explained, and then have some demos as well. So you can check that out later. So now we're going to talk about the REST client library. RAD Server is great for building that server that you want to connect to, but sometimes you want to connect to other REST endpoints out there on the internet. They're everywhere. Everybody's got a REST endpoint anymore, and that's the lingua franca of the REST web services today. And so we have this REST client library, and I got to tell you, I love this REST client library. If I'm talking to somebody that's new to Delphi, and I'm like, oh, we can build mobile apps. I'm like, yeah, well, I can build mobile apps with insert framework here. I'm like, well, yeah, but I can build a mobile app that can consume a REST service and deploy it to both iOS, Android, Windows, and OS X all in 5 minutes. And I'm like, what? Hold on. That's what this REST client library does. It is so incredibly powerful in what you can do. It just blows people away. it has everything you need. The REST debugger you can use. You can point it to a REST endpoint. You can provide the authentication, all different types of authentication options. It will go out there, connect, consume the REST service, and then give you the ability to convert that REST JSON data into a data set that you can then bind to, just like you would any data set, right? So it's a T data set descendant, FD table, or whatever you want to use, and consume it just like you would. So it's so powerful that you can just do all this that easily. You guys want to add anything? I love the REST client library.
Yeah, and as you said before, the cool thing is that so many services that you're using these days have added REST REST APIs for it. Like just since we've set up Code Partners, we've been writing little applications to glue together the different systems that we're using. The finance system and the online shop and the CRM and all these other pieces that we need for the business. And rather than having people whose manual, boring job it is to plug these things together, you can write a quick Delphi or CBuilder app to join them together and automate this. And so if I think back to a lot of what we used to do with Delphi, or Delphi in the early days, what was so cool about it was that it could connect to just about everything. You had database connectivity, you had COM to automate Office, you had all this stuff that you could connect to, AS400s and whatever else. That's kind of continued. It's still got this amazing spread of connectivity through to modern cloud-based applications like, Xero we use for finance. We've got a whole bunch of stuff automated in there.
Yeah, during Code Rage, we wanted to set up a chat room for everybody to use. And I was like, oh, what would be great is to use Slack, because it's a nice chat room. But Slack doesn't have an API where you can just sign a bunch of people up in mass. And so I'm like, well, they have a REST API. So I went and looked, and sure enough, I could just grab a list of all the email addresses everybody that signed up for Code Rage, and I built a quick Delphi app that just takes them and sends them all into Slack and signs them all up for Slack, just that quick and easy. And it was really, really easy to do once I found the API endpoint I needed. And so it's like you said, it's just one more thing of how Delphi makes it easy to connect to things and build those little utility apps that you need, whether it be the little quick utilities or the things you need to run the backbone of your business on.
Well, often it's the little quick utilities that end up becoming the things that run the backbone of your organization on, whether you mean them to or not, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, this is just a prototype. Yeah.
15 years later, it's let's go with it.
Yeah. And we could talk about that point right there, but that is so huge, is that so many times people have different well, this is our tool we use to prototype things in. This is our tool we use to build production applications. And they think they need to have two different applications, but Delphi is so good at being both. And that, because that happens so often, is that you build this little prototype. Oh, this is a quick little utility, but then all of a sudden it needs to be in production and it needs to stay running. It needs to have new features added to it. So, yeah. So REST client demo. This is a little video I did of literally building a REST client and deploying it in 5 minutes. Actually, it was just over 5 minutes, and they build it and deploy it to Windows, iOS, and Android, and in 5 minutes. It's very cool.
5 minutes? You got the timer there? Is that the...
Yeah, so that's... I built a little timer.
5 minutes. Let's do it live. Don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but, I'm keen if you're
okay, here we go. We'll do it. Let me...
Oh, dude, I was kidding. All right, yeah, but do it.
Don't have to do it, Jack. You don't have to do it.
It's too late now. I'm committed.
All right. Here we go.
Here we go. All right, so...
This thing's not going to stop in an hour, is it?
I hope not. So this is where I like to get my do my demos from. This is a little website called Spitcast that has a surf forecast in California, and there probably are people surfing out there right now, even though it's freezing cold in the middle of December. But they have an API, so I can go out here, and I grab this one right here. This is their all spots endpoint, and so you see here it's a list of county name, latitude, longitude, spot ID, spot name. And so then you can take that spot ID and plug it into different ones here to get forecast for right here. So I can plug that spot ID in here and get the forecast. So let's do this. I'm going to go here to Tools, REST Debugger, and I'm just going to take that spot. I love doing this demo, so as soon as Malcolm said we should do it, I'm like, all right. So there we go. I've hit that REST endpoint. Here's the header. So it shows me that it came back 200 OK. Here's the body in formatted JSON. So it's already gone through and formatted all my JSON for me. And this is the coolest part right here. I go to tabular data, and it shows me that data we just saw in JSON has now been converted into a data set. This right here, occasionally that's nested in some other JSON element, so I can actually plug that in here to drill into the JSON if I need to. We didn't get into it, but I can add parameters here, authentication options, including OAuth and OAuth 2, and proxy support, but we didn't need any of that for this sample. And then this button right here, copy components, I just click that button, and it copied all the components already configured to my clipboard to connect to that JSON service. So let's come here and click there, and new application, and I'm going to paste down those components. And they're already down here. Here's whoops, I don't want to do that. This is the REST client. This is what makes the connection to the server. This is the REST request that knows what endpoint to connect to on that server, or the parameters. So the idea is you can have multiple requests that connect to the same client. And then the REST request puts the data, the JSON, into the REST response. The REST response dataset adapter then takes that JSON and converts it into an FD-mem table here. So now I'll put down a list view. And I'm doing this in FireMonkey, but I could just as easily do this on VCL as well and bind it to a regular grid. And let's go bind visually. And I'm going to watch this. This is so cool. Right-click on this REST request and say execute. And it's gone out and connected to that REST service at design time and populated my FD-mem table. Now I've got columns here, so I can copy. So line this up here to list view sync and put the county name on the header and the spot name in the text. And now I should write a line of code here. REST request dot execute. So let's execute when I run it. So now it's running here on Windows. And there we go. I've gone through and connected to all those. So this is the county Del Norte, and here's another Humboldt County, and then all the surf spots in that county. So like I said, I could just easily plug another REST request in there that could pull down details for each spot. But that's it. I did it. And in this code, I could just go over here and say deploy to Android, deploy to iOS, deploy to Mac OS, and it would just work everywhere because that's what Delphi gives you. So there we go.
I got to say, that's astonishing.
It is. I'm going to be very careful about making jokes about what other demos you should do because
that's astonishing. That's brilliant.
I've been before. I was talking to a guy, and I've shared the story before, and that's where this idea for this video came from. Is I was down in Brazil, and this guy had ran this huge development department. He had like 100 C# developers, and they were doing all this ASP.NET development. And his boss, the CTO, came to him and said, we need to have, or I guess it was CIO, came to him and said, we need a mobile device. And he's like, okay, we're C# developers. We should use Xamarin, right? And so he's like, well, I'm going to test it. I'm going to develop it myself. So he goes and gets Xamarin. And it's like, I'm going to build a REST client. I'm going to give myself a week to do it in. And within a week, I should build a REST client in Xamarin. So he starts working on it, and he was about a week into it when I came to talk to him. He said he was really frustrated because not only did he find out that he had to actually build 2 different clients if he wanted to support both iOS and Android, the whole idea of single code base didn't really pan out, and it was a lot more pain. He was, like I said, almost a week into it, and he still didn't have a working prototype. And I smiled, and I said, I can build it and deploy it to your phone in 5 minutes. He's like, no. And I said, yes, I will do it in 5 minutes. And sure enough, I did basically what I just showed you there and built it and deployed it to his phone, and he's like, I can't.
Sweet.
It just blows people away. So another emerging technology, NoSQL databases. MongoDB is probably the predominant NoSQL database. But this is kind of an idea that's been around for a while. It's kind of this idea of a document storage database or a graph storage database. But recently, with big data and real-time web applications, this has seen a lot more popularity. It's so much so that, like, some of the bigger databases, some of the mainstay databases like Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle are starting to implement this functionality because people are moving away from these traditional RDBMSs to these NoSQL databases. But
Yes.
FireDAC, which is the most amazing data access framework ever, in my opinion, has
Astonishing.
Yes, it's astonishing. Has support for MongoDB, NoSQL database, as well as all the other databases you see here on the screen, as well as I think there's a couple other ones that we've added support to recently. The cool thing about FireDAC, so actually if we go back to 1995 with Delphi 1, had the BDE. The BDE was amazing. It was ahead of its time. It made database application development easy, which, that was one of the facts of life, is if you need to connect to a database, it was a pain, it was complicated, and way too much work. But BDE made it easy. The problem was BDE was kind of heavyweight. It was prone to breaking, kind of complicated installation, and didn't really, eventually we ended up retiring the BDE and moving to DB Express and some other frameworks which were lightweight and fast, but they never had that full, robust bidirectional functionality the BDE had. FireDAC brings that back. FireDAC has that full, robust functionality that we expected, that we got from the BDE, but it's lightweight, it's fast, and very, very reliable. So it's based on T dataset. You have a T connection, T dataset, a T, I guess it's a TFD connection, TFD query, TFD table, etc. All those connect to the same components, can connect to any of those databases you see there. But then the cool thing is FireDAC is able to reach in and grab some of those specific features of each of these databases as well. So you're not sacrificing anything by using FireDAC. You still get full access to all the features of the database. But again, it's like Malcolm was saying, right? You don't have to worry about the plumbing until you need to worry about the plumbing. And then you can access the functionality of the database. So the fact it's based on that same philosophy and the same design paradigm of the BDE means if you have old BDE code that you haven't migrated yet, we have tools that make it easy for you to migrate from the BDE to FireDAC and start taking advantage of these features. Kerry Jensen, who's been a long time luminary in the community, especially around data access, he was telling me that he was working with a customer recently, and they were having some sort of strange errors with the data access framework. And I can't remember what framework they're using. It wasn't BDE, but it was some other third-party framework. He's like, well, we could try FireDAC since it's in the box, it ships with what you have, and see if that fixes this issue. And so it was a little bit of effort, but they switched over to use FireDAC in this one situation. And it not only fixed the issue they were having, but the performance improvement was huge. And it turned out there was all these other issues they were having that were related to performance, but they just figured it was just the nature of network latency. It was just going to be the way it was. There was nothing they could do about it. But FireDAC was just so much faster that it fixed all these other problems they didn't even know were fixable. And so he says now he tells everybody, I don't care what you're on, upgrade to the latest version of Delphi and upgrade to FireDAC because it is so worth it for the performance and the functionality that you're going to get.
Yep, true enough. It's very, very powerful, probably the best data access framework on the market. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not shy about saying that.
Yeah, I agree. I've talked to some customers and they're like, well, I like XYZ framework because it does this. And there are some other frameworks out there that do some specific things that are great, and that's fine. Use that framework if that framework's doing the one thing you need to do. But generally speaking, FireDAC is a great solution and probably does the 99.9% of the things you need to do better than anything else. But there are probably some other frameworks out there that do one or two things that are really amazing. So I'm not saying not to use any third parties, but unless you have a reason to, start with FireDAC because it's amazing. The MongoDB support is really cool too. It just does a fantastic job of making MongoDB easy to work with. So again, I'm going to link you to, this is my local SQL skill sprint I did a while ago. and you can watch this video. And the thing I love about this video is, so local SQL is great because you can run SQL locally on your in your application against any data set. So if you have a data set that you built in code, or a data set maybe you got from REST, or a data set that you got from any other data set, any data set descendant, doesn't have to be an FD FireDAC data set, you can run SQL against it and do a join against all of these data sets. And so that's what I did here, is I got 5 different T data sets, 5 different types of data sets from 5 different data sources, and did a join across all of them just to see if I could do it, and it worked.
No way.
Yes, I cannot tell you how many times in the past I pulled my hair out wishing I could do something like that, and the FD local SQL made it easy and just did it and worked. Oh my goodness.
That's brilliant.
I was so thrilled. So Internet of Things. This is kind of the new big thing, right? We've talked about how mobile devices are eclipsing desktop devices. Well, Internet of Things is this idea of everything being a smart device. And Internet of Things devices are connecting to the Internet, and these devices are eclipsing mobile devices now. This is the idea of, whether it be smartwatches or refrigerators or stoves or whatever it is.
Okay, Google, turn on the sprinklers.
Exactly. I have an Amazon Echo. We say, Alexa, do something, and in my home. And I tell you what, as soon as I had that, I've got that a few years ago when it first came out, and I saw that, I was like, this is it. This is the future. And now Google's coming out with their Google Home device, yep. And Microsoft's coming out with one, and they're saying Apple's going to come out with one. That is the future, is you're going to come out and you're just talking to your house, and everything in your house is connected, and you can do it all from right there. So this is happening today.
Yeah, and RAD Studio includes all that support that you need to build applications to run your Internet of Things objects, including Bluetooth, Bluetooth LE, REST, and access to specific IoT devices.
Yep, so the specific devices like beacons, which give you a proximity, as well as, let's say you want to build a device to talk to a heart rate monitor. You can just go to the Get It package manager and type a search for heart rate monitor, and it says, oh, you can use a Polar or I can't remember the different heart rate monitors. It lists like 2 or 3 different heart rate monitors or a generic heart rate monitor. You select the one you want, it installs the component into your IDE, you drop the component onto a form, it connects to your heart rate monitor on Android, iOS, Windows, and Mac OS, and you can then interact with that heart rate monitor. And it's like, okay, now I need a scale, now I need a this, now I need a that. You just go in and grab those components, and it connects to them. Again, it's like, it makes it easy, it's just as high level, but when you need to, you can get down there, you can use the Bluetooth LE components to get down low-level Bluetooth. We actually have a Bluetooth Explorer you can use to figure out how to Splunk into your own Bluetooth devices as well. So,
this, to me, this just takes that story we were talking about before about RAD Studio being able to connect to pretty much everything. You whatever database you've got, whatever server you've got, whatever you need to connect to solve this business problem. This just takes it further. You've got devices, you've got Bluetooth interfaces you need to talk to. Yeah, of course you can talk to it. It just enables so much because you don't have to wonder, can I talk to it? It's, yeah, of course I can.
Exactly.
And so, Nick, you were saying, what was it? Your friend has a stove or refrigerator that's a smart device?
Well, both actually. He just bought a new house, and they wheeled in the refrigerator. He noticed first, and it had that that peel off sticker on the outside, and it had a Wi-Fi sign, the exact same Wi-Fi sign on this slide. And he looked up in the user's manual. I was there at the house with him, and he looked in the user's manual, and sure enough, there's an app for his refrigerator that can tell him what the temperature is, and I don't know if it can tell you whether you're out of milk or not or something. I don't know, but it has an app that he can talk to, so he can sit at work or sit in the car or wherever and take a look and check on his fridge. Then we discovered that the stove had the same thing, Wi-Fi enabled stove application. Pretty crazy.
Wow.
I probably, like a lot of programmers and technologists, so I'm sort of gradually looking for any excuse to try and automate things around my house. So I don't know what sort of I was going to say rubbish bins, but you guys have in the US you have trash cans, right, at your house.
Mm-hmm.
So in Australia generally we have big trash cans on wheels. We call them wheelie bins. And one night a week you have to take them outside for the garbage men to come around and collect. And if you forget, like I always do, you know, you're lying in bed in the morning, half asleep, and you hear the garbage men come, and that's the moment you realise you haven't taken the bins out to be collected. So I've actually got, I've set this up at home so that I've got beacons on each of my bins, permanently mounted on my bins. And there's on my server at home, there's I've got a little Delphi app that runs. It does a bunch of things, but one of the things it does is at a certain time the night before the garbage men are coming, it checks to see whether, it checks the calendar and figures out which bins are due to be collected tomorrow, whether it's recycling or the green bin or the general rubbish. Figures out what bins need to be out the front the following morning and checks to see if it can see those beacons in the location where the bins are kept through the week. And if it can't, it then sends me a notification and my wife a notification on our phone saying, hey, you've forgotten to take the bins out. It's a green bin and a red bin day tomorrow. So yeah, it's kind of totally nerdy, but it's kind of cool. My wife thinks I'm ridiculous.
I totally need that. Oh my goodness, it's exactly the same problem I have.
I think you're completely ridiculous, too, Mal.
Yeah, thank you. I knew that.
That's one step too far. I'm sorry.
So you've got a Wi-Fi enabled fridge. I've got beacon enabled rubbish.
That's outstanding.
The
That
thing
is
I love
outstanding.
is that anymore, it's like, I want to do this. You can do it, right? It's like, oh, I just dropped this component, I go buy this piece of hardware, stick it on a rubbish bin, and all of a sudden you've got smart rubbish bins, and it was, you know, it's just done. And
the beacons were like $5 each on eBay or something, so it was totally doable. My son and I did it one Sunday afternoon.
That's outstanding. Truly outstanding.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here. We're about over time, so it's a good thing we didn't get into too many demos here. Linux servers. So I found this here. W3
That's a lot of red, Jim.
Yes, it is. W3Cook.com checks the top 1 million web servers according to their stats to see what server they're running, and 96.6% of those top 1 million servers are running Linux.
That's a lot of red.
It is a lot of red. So the reality is Linux is the predominant server OS that's out there. Microsoft has started embracing and promoting Linux servers. That's how you know Linux has arrived, as Microsoft stopped calling it a cancer and started saying, oh, we love Linux.
Cancer.
And
True
that's
enough.
why, coming up in our next major release, the Godzilla release, codenamed Godzilla, we have Linux server support coming.
Yes, we do.
So this is all our RAD or Delphi and C++ Builder server technologies are going to now be able to work on Intel Linux 64-bit.
Yes. And all of our update subscription customers will be on the beta. Get a beta look at it.
Yes, so in the past, the first rule of the beta was don't talk about the beta, and the second rule of the beta was don't talk about the beta. And while that's still the case, you can now say, if you want to get on the beta, update subscription.
Absolutely.
All of you to join the beta and get ready for Linux servers.
I'm so looking forward to this for RAD Server because anyone who knows me will tell you that I'm fundamentally cheap, and Amazon Linux instances are so much cheaper than Windows instances, and so I can move all my RAD Server instances that are currently running on Windows over to Linux, and I don't know, probably save the cost of a coffee a day or something, but it's the principle of the matter.
Right.
Cheap is cheap, Mal.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? There's no doubt about it. Yeah, so we're moving forward on the Linux thing very hard and very fast.
Yes. And so many people are so excited about this because I think we're all cheap. and there's so many cool things you can do on Linux as well. But anyway, so we have some resources available for you. So if you're on an older version of Delphi, C++ Builder, RAD Studio, and any of this. If you're still on the call with us today, clearly some of this is of interest to you. So we have a resource center, migration center available to you where you can go to find out how to move forward to Unicode if you're still on a pre-Unicode version, how to move forward to 64-bit, how to move forward to FireDAC data access frameworks, how to migrate to RAD Server middleware, and how to move some of your third-party components forward. So everything you need that's going to get you from where you're at now to Berlin, where you can take advantage of all this cool technology we showed you and get ready for Linux Server, is available there in our Migration Center. Actually have a utility that will run on your code and tell you like what sort of issues to look for Unicode migration, or the utility you can run on your code that will convert it from BDE to FireDAC and do, like 80% of the conversion, and then you got to go through and, just check it and make sure it worked right. So it's all there, ready for you, so that you can move forward and start taking advantage of all this technology here. And then we have some special offers available to you. December is like the month of the year if you're not on the latest version to get on the latest version. So we have a 20%. First of all, upgrade from any previous version. Last time we talked about this, someone said, well, what about if I'm on Delphi 2? Yes, if you're on Delphi 2, you can upgrade to Berlin with upgrade pricing right now and get an additional bonus off Architect, Enterprise, or Professional, like you see there, as well as the bonus pack, which is like a $900 value. And if you want to buy a 50-user Interbase server license, you get unlimited Interbase to go, which is the embeddable version of Interbase. So lots of great options. Check it out. I can hear my dog barking. Dog's excited.
Yeah, so he wants his kennel back.
That's right. So that's it. I don't have my question window up now. Do you guys, are there any questions? I didn't see them coming in.
Yeah, I've been asked. We've been answering them along.
Answering as we go. All right. Anything we want to bring up? If there's questions we don't get to, there's our email addresses. Send us an email. Malcolm at code-partners.com, nick.hodges@embarcadero.com, and jim.mckeith@embarcadero.com.
Yeah, send all the tricky ones to Jim and Nick.
Yeah, that's good advice.
If you want to buy something, Malcolm.
Mel.
I'm not.
All right. Any questions there, Nick, or that we should talk about here? I realize we're just past 5 o'clock in my.
A few of them came in, and I kind of answered them as they went along. Can RAD Server run on Linux was one of the questions, and of course it will be available when our Linux support is available.
Right, exactly. RAD Server on Linux.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else coming through? I answered most of them, so I think we can maybe wrap it up if there's still further questions.
Okay.
And Malcolm, your rubbish bin application is in high demand, clearly.
Yeah, clearly I'm on a winner here. I think I need to go make my millions.
Yeah, give it away, TUI. I'm going to sell this thing. I got to get me a beacon and put it on my garbage can.
Yeah, that happens all the time in my house. Oh my goodness, trash man! What do we got to take out?
Yep.
Actually, yesterday morning, I missed them. They pulled away, and I didn't have the rubbish bins out there. So.
Did you just say rubbish bins, Jim?
I did say rubbish bins.
Any second, we'll have him saying Delphi.
Delphi. I can't remember which one I say. Now I'm confused as to which is the right way.
We can set you straight. It's no problem.
All right.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for everybody for joining us. Thank you, Malcolm.
Thanks, everybody. This was fun. I appreciate your attendance.
Yeah, thank you, guys, and I appreciate you guys staying late to do this in a friendlier time zone for us.
Oh, our pleasure.
Happy to help. Happy to be there for our friends down under.
That's right. All right. Talk to you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.